Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are back talking about the Chicago Bears, and we will be talking a little bit of Bulls, a little bit of Blackhawks, a little bit of baseball too. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. It is coming up on Christmas. What gift could be better than some sweet Ice Hogs merchandise or maybe some tickets under the Christmas tree? So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Also, if you are not familiar with the Hot Mic app, check it out. It is free. And if you are tired of listening to Joe Buck and all these other goofballs that the NFL gives you when you are watching your team, and you want to listen to real fans talk about the game, then do yourself a favor and check out Hot Mic. It's free. It syncs up to your TV broadcast, so you can watch your TV broadcast and listen to somebody else that's not those announcers. It is glorious. And if you want, you can flip over to other channels, which are more fans. You've got choices. It's pretty awesome. If you don't like it, it's free. We're out no money. There's no contracts. So check it out, the Hot Mic app, HOTMIC. Alex, it's been a couple weeks since we did a show.
Yeah, it has.
And there's a lot going on. Where do you want to start?
Oh, boy, I feel like we could spin the wheel here. Why don't we just kind of start with baseball, and then maybe we could work into some football and then to some Bulls.
All right, baseball. So the White Sox, they made a couple big splashes already. One big splash and one, I think, expected splash. They re-signed their first baseman, Jose Abreu, which I think was a fair contract. It was 3 years, which is, I guess, probably what I expected. And I know some people are like, well, he's not a very good first baseman and his numbers weren't great. The guy's numbers were pretty decent last year, and he's a good ambassador for this team. And if you don't like him at first base, you know what? You've got a first baseman in the minors. One of them can be a DH. You've got that luxury in the American League. I'm not sure what the hubbub is about.
Yeah, I think it was a smart move on their part. I was probably, I'd say, 80-90% certain that they'd give him some sort of extension. So when I saw the news, I wasn't really surprised. I figured, oh, okay, there it is. We were, kind of waiting to see what would happen there. At first I thought, okay, if he accepts the offer, the qualifying offer, maybe they'd get it done down the road, but they decided to get it done right away. So, yeah, again, overall, expected move, and I'd say a fairly smart one. I know he's getting older and whatnot, but he's obviously a good guy to have around the team. I think he has a lot of respect from everyone on that team. He's been there since really, 2014, when you think about it, those were the final years of them trying to go for it before the rebuild. So he's kind of been there the whole journey, so to speak. The transition, the final transition away from that White Sox core that had a few pieces together from the old days, and then saw a new core that didn't work out and is now transitioning to this new one. What I'm trying to say is he's been around this team for a while, and I think he's earned it with them. He he's clearly comfortable there, and yeah, good stuff.
And there's people out there that are saying, oh, his production dropped. So I'm going to exclude 2018 because he missed like 40 games.
He was injured that year. He had a lot of nagging injuries that year.
So it's hard to, without me doing some math and extrapolating, I'm going to compare 15, 16, 17, and 19. So home runs, 30, 25, 33, and 33 last year. So last year he had his high home run since 2015. So that doesn't sound like a dip. RBIs, I know it's an arbitrary number, but still. 2015 had 101, 2016 had 100, 2017 had 102, and 2019 123. His walk rate dipped a little bit, but it was tied for what he had in 2017. His K rate was up a little bit, but it was less than 1% higher than his highest over those few years. BABIP right there. So BABIP 333, 327, 330, 320. Batting average 290, 293, 304, 284. So dip in the batting average. And WRC plus 131, 121, 139, 117. And WAR 3.32, 4.3, 1.9. Those are F-WAR. Not much of a dip there.
No, it's not. I mean, you'll probably see Abreu in a number of situations where he is DHing, or maybe he switches from first to DH in a game or whatever, and maybe he doesn't get placed in the same spot of the order all the time, but he's going to be there and he's still going to be productive. I don't see any problem there. I mean it's a nice cushion to have. With some of these prospects, you just don't know. And while I think Vaughn is going to be very good, at least you have a guaranteed good hitting first baseman.
Yeah, and here's
you know what you're getting.
Here's his projections for next year. 102 RBIs, a 275 batting average, 332 on base percentage, a 496 slugging percentage, 116 WRC plus, and a 1.9 WAR. Why would you?
Sounds fine to me.
That sounds absolutely fine.
Sounds fine.
And the veteran presence. There you go. I don't understand the people getting all upset about that. But you know what is, I know one of the arguments was, oh, we've got the top first baseman prospect in the minors. Okay. One of them plays first base. One of them plays designated hitter. They alternate. There's room in there. And somebody else was like, well, you signed a catcher and you signed a first baseman. Where does Zach Collins play? I don't know. When he figures out how to hit, you'll figure it out where to put him.
You gotta realize at this point, if you really want to win, if you really want to try to win, you gotta plug some of your holes with proven people. I mean, I get it. You're trying to build a core of young guys, but you also have the opportunity to add established stars here. I mean, Zach Collins, who would you rather have right now? Zach Collins or Yasmani Grandal? I'm taking Yasmani Grandal.
All
10 out of
day.
10.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what you have in him.
And I don't know if you saw Mike North, but man, he was.
Oh, God.
Like.
240.
The guy has a 5.2 WAR at a spot that you need improvement at.
Tell me for one damn minute that James McCann is better than Yasmani Grandal.
Yeah, not going to happen.
He's a career backup who's going to be like a 230 hitter next year, because I think it's pretty obvious last year was a fluke.
Yeah, and he started to fade at the end of the season. I mean,
yeah, he did.
Will he be a good backup catcher? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's what he is, a backup catcher.
The White Sox probably have the best catching tandem in baseball right now.
Sure.
So, you're gonna poo-poo signing the best catcher available in the free agent market with coming off of a 5.2 WAR season. Okay.
How about 240 average? Forget the 380 on base. Forget the slugging. Forget the home runs.
Yeah,
forget the walks.
Here's his WAR from the last several seasons: 5.2, 5.8, 4.1, 4.7, 5.2. That's good.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah. His on-base percentages, 353, 339, 349, 380. Like, the guy gets on base.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not 1906. We don't go, the batting average not good. You know how many RBIs he had?
Yeah, no, we don't do that. And I love that voice, by the way. That's funny.
So yeah, I mean, the White Sox, off to a good start so far, and the rumors are that they're in on Zach Wheeler as well, which I think would be a good signing for them.
Yeah, sure. I think if you go after him, that gives you another solid arm in the rotation, one that could miss bats. If I'm a betting man, I think they make one more signing like that, and then maybe they make a trade. I think those are going to be the next two big moves. I think you'll see a bunch of other smaller moves, obviously, but those will be the other two big ones. I kind of think they'll go after Castellanos, like they're saying. I think Zach Wheeler is higher on their list, and if they were to get one, I think they'd want Zach Wheeler. Maybe not. I mean, there is a hole in right field, but that's kind of my prediction right now. I could be wrong. I could be right. I don't know.
It was funny though that Yomer Sanchez, they were just like, nope, nope. He costs too much money, which is kind of annoying.
Look, I mean, I know he's wacky and fun and all, but like, I think Steve Stone said it best. Great guy, great glove, but you're not going to pay, what was it, like $6 million in arbitration money for 240 batting, like 2 home run. I don't think he hit. I don't remember how many home runs he hit, but it wasn't
Mike
a lot.
North.
I know. But his on base wasn't really good either.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't really a
just joking
slugger. I know. But I think Yolmer can find his place somewhere as a bench guy, defender. So he's definitely a likable guy. But I can see why they would want to part ways. I mean, you're going to be bringing up Madrigal, and I know we talked about veterans versus youngsters, but Madrigal is one of your key guys, and it's not like you're getting rid of Jose Altuve. You're getting rid of Yolmer Sanchez. There's a difference there.
So I heard 2 rumors potentially in the trade market for the White Sox.
Okay.
Josh Reddick, Chris Davis.
Josh Reddick. I don't know why they'd want Josh Reddick.
I don't know why they really want either one of them.
Right. Wait, like Chris Davis as in Orioles Chris Davis? Or
Oakland Chris Davis.
Oh, Oakland Chris Davis. Okay. I see.
I don't really, but okay. I mean
he hits for power.
He does.
But why? They would have to really give Oakland something back for that, I think.
I think so too. And I don't think they're really going to do that. But free agent market, Castellanos is out there, Cole Calhoun, Yasiel Puig.
I think Yasiel Puig would be a good fit for them.
I think so too. I know he's a bit nuts. I just feel I say a
player wise.
Yeah, but I think the White Sox would be a good fit for him, and I know I'm going to get at least one angry text message after this, but I really do think he fits what the White Sox do historically. Is he's not going to be too big of a splash, but he has a name to him, and with his background, I think the White Sox have made a name for themselves as the organization, and he's got some pop. So, and I don't think he would be that expensive.
No, I don't think so either.
Because I think his wackiness is sort of, lowered his price significantly on the free agent market.
Sure. I think you could get him at a decent deal.
I'm not saying cheap, but definitely a reasonable deal. So I feel like he'd be a much more affordable option than Castellanos.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, though. I think overall I'd rather have Castellanos. But
I would too, but Yasiel Puig is probably a much easier target to sign for the White Sox.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think of, who else is probably in on the Yasiel Puig market right now.
I mean, I'm sure I bet the Indians would like to re-sign him, or at least they'd maybe be thinking about it. I don't know what they're going to do. It sounds like they may be wanting to sell off. I think they're done.
Yeah, let's see.
Not going back to the Dodgers. I don't see that. Do you think the Reds try to re-sign him, bring him back?
No, I don't think so.
Don't think so. That's another thing I wanted to bring up really quick. The White Sox did the Cubs a favor by signing Grandal.
Yeah, they did, because they really opened up the trade market for Wilson Contreras.
Well, not just that, but you know who was really in on Grandal was Cincinnati.
That's double whammy.
And here's the thing. That Cincinnati ball club, the way they've added the pitching, the core they have, I know I feel like I say this every year and it never really happens, but that team can really improve and be another thorn in our side. Continue to be a thorn in our side. So, thank you for getting him and not having him go to the Reds, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Bleacher Report is also predicting the White Sox sign Yasiel Puig.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't really hear much about him. Like, just in general, you don't hear much about teams that are in on him.
Yeah, so
watch him go to like the Marlins or something.
He's a career 826 OPS and typically rated as a well above average right fielder. The White Sox, with their history of Cuban players, need of a right fielder. Because he was traded mid-season, he also doesn't come with you. They couldn't do a qualifying offer on him, so you don't have to give any sort of compensation if you sign him. This whole thing just screams White Sox.
Yeah, it does.
Guy with big power potential. He's got a name, but he's not a hot commodity. Cuban player, right field, the position you need. No qualifying off. You don't have to have any draft pick compensation. I would be surprised if the White Sox aren't at least in on him.
Yeah, or at least checking in on. Yeah, I definitely think they got their eye on him.
Yeah, and that's really all I've heard of the White Sox is the Zach Wheeler, the moves they've already made. They outrighted Daniel Palka. They put Yomer Sanchez on outright waivers. Yeah, we're still really early. Not even Thanksgiving yet.
Yeah.
Especially since the last couple years, we're really slow with the hot stove league.
Yeah, and it could still be slower again. We're waiting for. I think it's fair to say the White Sox are going to be in on a number of people. Garrett Cole is probably not one of them.
No, I don't think they'll be on Garrett Cole. I don't think they'll be in on Steven Strasburg. I think the market that they're probably in on, Obviously the Zach Wheeler, that's a market they're probably in, or we're hearing about
Madison
Bumgarner, maybe even a Cole Hamels or a Dallas Keuchel.
Sure.
Those guys that aren't going to break the bank, they can sign for probably, I don't know, Madison Bumgarner. He's got a lot of miles on that arm, and he's had some injury history, but he's not that old.
No, he's not. And he's still putting up solid numbers too.
So I'm really curious of what kind of contract he's going to get. Like, I'm honestly, I have no idea. I could see him being the league looking at him as he's much older than he is, and signing him, him not getting more than a 3 or 4 year deal.
Part of me thinks he could get a prove it deal.
I wouldn't be surprised at that either. But I could also, if somebody signed him to a 6 year deal, a 5 year deal, like, that wouldn't shock me either. I don't know what to expect with him. Zach Wheeler, I think Madison Bumgarner and Zach Wheeler are about the same age, aren't they?
Roughly, I think.
So Zach Wheeler, I probably is going to get 4 or 5 year deal. Dallas Keuchel will get a multi-year deal. I'm curious of what Cole Hamels is going to get.
Yeah, I see him getting a 2-year deal. I think last year, if you would have told me in the first half if they would bring back Cole Hamels, the Cubs, before he got hurt, I would have said slam dunk. He was their best starter that first half, and then he got hurt, and then since then, just completely downhill. I do feel like, though, he still has something left in the tank, because he was rolling, and then once he got hurt, it just fell off like a brick in water. So I feel like if he's fully healthy another year, he'll still put up good numbers. That being said, I don't see the Cubs bringing him back, but I could see the White Sox being interested in a guy like him.
And honestly, if the Cubs did bring him back, I wouldn't be upset. It will depend on the money.
Yeah,
if they brought him back on a 2-year deal, $18-19 million, I wouldn't be upset.
There's a lot of things the Cubs are going to have to look at in that rotation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, should we just transition to that?
Transition, yeah. White Sox really nothing. I mean, it's still early on. We've kind of run through what they've done and some rumors. I would like to move to the White Sox.
You mean the Cubs?
All right, Cubs. I was staring at a White Sox thing on Bleacher Report. Name association. Yeah, switch to the Cubs. All right. I'm gonna put this out there piece by piece. And
okay.
I want to see where you go with this.
Okay.
Do you like Whit Merrifield?
Yes, but not enough to make a big splash for him.
Let's just go piece by piece.
Okay.
Yes or no. Do you like Whit Merrifield?
Kinda.
Would you like Whit Merrifield on the Cubs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you be willing to put together a deal to get Whit Merrifield that included Nico Horner?
No.
Okay. There we go. That's the same boat I am, and I am reading. I've been reading people's comments. Put together a deal with Nico Horner and this guy and this guy, and I'm like, why in the world would you give up Nico Horner for Whit Merrifield? And I like Whit Merrifield. I think he would help the Cubs, but I think the Royals made a mistake by not trading him during the trade deadline last year.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about it. Here, the other funny thing too is I've seen a lot of on Twitter. Oh, just package Almora and Happ for him. The Royals would laugh and hang up the phone.
Yeah, I mean, the Royals are sort of in a predicament that they either have to keep him, and he's not helping that team because they're not ready to compete, and he's going to be 31 when the season starts. So he's not a young guy. I mean, he's not old, but he's not a young guy either. So by the time that they're ready to compete, his contract's up and he's older. So like, he's not helping that team at all. And he's not a big enough name where he's selling tickets. So like, I don't know. I don't know what, they're really going to get for him. And let's see.
Should have sold him when he was hot.
Yeah.
You should have sold the cocoa when it was hot.
I mean, here's his projections for 2020. 14 home runs, 23 stolen bases, 64 RBIs. 7
What's the on base? That's all I really care about.
337.
Okay.
Not spectacular.
No. Technically above average, yeah, but to give up Nico Horner for that?
And his projected WAR is 1.8.
Okay, again, you'd really give up Nico Horner for that?
No.
And I know I said earlier, established talent over prospects, but you also got to evaluate where this established talent is.
Yeah, I mean, is Whit Merrifield an established talent? Sort of. I mean, he's put up some decent numbers, but it's not like he has that many years in the league. I mean, his first full-time season was 2017, and so he's got 3 years in the big leagues, and he's in his 30s.
Right.
So he played a long time. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons in the Royals, in single, double, or triple A. It's a long time, man.
That is a long time. And, it's one of those things where it's where you wish, okay, if we could just have him. Of course, ideally, you'd like to have a guy like that.
Yeah,
it's all about the price.
Yeah, if you were like, oh, hey, just take the rest of his contract, I'd go, okay, yeah, take him. Absolutely.
If they wanted Nico Horner and Amaya, another one of their big guys, I'd say, okay, we'll give those guys to him, but you also need to take Trubisky and let us have Pat Mahomes. Then we got a deal.
Deal. I'd take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it feels so much like that Brian Roberts hoopla that happened in the mid-2000s. Or do you remember when the Cubs were constantly saying how they wanted Jake Peavy, or how they were in on maybe not to as much of a degree, but I remember the years when people would say, "Oh, Adam Dunn is going to be a Cub one day." It kind of feels like that.
Yeah, I would be absolutely shocked if the Cubs gave up anything of significance to get Whit Merrifield. And I know they're saying the Cubs, I've read multiple reports how the Cubs are hot and heavy to get him and trade for him. And I'm not doubting that, but I don't feel like he's the prize that's going to put them over the top. And I don't feel like Jed and Theo are that enamored that they're willing to give up a salary controlled top prospect for him.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it'd be one thing if the Cubs farm system was stacked, but it's not.
Yeah, and they're not a Whit Merrifield from World Series either.
No, they're not.
This is not the same as overpaying for Ben Zobrist. This is not the same situation.
No, and I mean, Ben Zobrist's contract was 100% worth it, but
it was worth it because the results you got. But you paid a utility guy like $50 million, which is a lot of money. But it ended up in the end, you got a World Series victory that you wouldn't have won without him.
Right.
So, yeah, the juice became worth the squeeze. but you still overpaid for the juice. It just turned out to be really delicious juice.
I don't know why that's so funny to me.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I would love to have a Whit Merrifield. You know, you could move him around. I mean, he's definitely a better option than David Bodie.
Sure.
But I mean, if you got the Whit Merrifield that had the 367 on base percentage, that, and you could tell me, oh yeah, he's going to have, close to a 370 on base percentage. I go, all right. Now you're starting to talk a little more. But and he's going to give me a 5 WAR like the 2018 Whit Merrifield. I'm just not that enamored.
No, I'm with you.
I think if you were to bring in a Whit Merrifield, it kind of, I guess that would probably really lower your chances of bringing back Nick Castellanos.
I'll be honest with you. I think Nick Castellanos is gone. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But right now, I just don't feel it.
Yeah. And I loved everything that Nick Castellanos brought to this team. But does some part of you think that maybe he was a flash in the pan?
I definitely think it was... I don't want to say flash in the pan, but I definitely think it was over his normal performance.
Yeah, I feel like if we paid him, we are not going to get that same performance that we got.
No. We'll get a very good performance, but not that.
Yeah, so I know everybody wants him back, and I'm not saying I don't, but he really put up some fantastic numbers with the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, he was hitting doubles at a pretty unsustainable rate. And he'll still be a doubles machine, no doubt, but it seemed like every 3 at-bats he was hitting a double. And, I mean, you saw last year, you never saw Nick Castellanos be as good as that. Again, he's a very good player, don't get me wrong. And I think it's fair to say that playing at Wrigley Field would be better for him from a production standpoint. So I feel like he would be a slightly better player here or elsewhere than he was in Detroit. But
that Detroit stadium is a big stadium.
It's a big stadium, a very awkward stadium to both field in and hit in. But yeah, it was definitely a very, how do I say it? Again, I don't want to use flash in the pan, but I guess overperform, like I said, was the best way I could describe it.
Here's his projections for 2020. 275, 331, 489.
Good, but not like superstar.
And 1.5 WAR.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest fear is they don't re-sign him and he continues to thrive elsewhere. And you could kind of think, well, we could have had him. But at the same time, you are right. And I've thought about it too. Is he really going to put up a season like he did last year?
And he did taper off at the end.
He did. Now, we knew that was going to happen. He was hitting at an unsustainable rate, but you're right. He did taper off. He didn't continue that the whole way. It's one of those things where you look at the situation and you say, okay, what are you going to get? Where is he in his career? He's in the prime of his career now. So if he gets a 4 or 5 year deal, it's going to be basically for the rest of his prime. So that makes you kind of more tempted to give him big money. But you look at what he's consistently been and you think, okay, even if he's in his prime, is he going to peak like he did last year? The projections in the past overall say no. So it's kind of one of those calls where you're looking at it and saying, you can go either way. You lean towards wanting him back, but there is that part of you that says, how much money are we really willing to give this guy?
I'm right there with you. I like him. He worries me a little bit.
Yeah, he worries me a little bit too. I still want him back overall. I'm not expecting it. It's really what I'm trying to say. I think he's going to take money elsewhere. If he wasn't a Boris client, I wouldn't be as worried about it. But being a Boris client,
you don't sign with, or you don't go with Scott Boras if you don't want the maximum money.
Right.
If you value the situation of where you're going to play, you don't go with Scott Boras.
Right.
Scott Boras, you go because you want every nickel that's on the table.
Mm-hmm. And look, I think Nicholas Castellanos generally liked being a Cub. He expressed it. He was very emotional about it. But he also strikes me as the guy, and I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, he strikes me as the guy saying, just show me where I need to go, I'll go. If it's where I'm going to get paid, that's where I'll go. Like, he really enjoyed being a Cub, but he doesn't, to me, seem like the guy who says, you know what, no matter what, I just want to stick here. I think it's kind of like, well, I enjoyed it here. If I could come back here, that would be great, but I'll go where my agent thinks is best fit, a.k.a. Cha-ching. And again, I'm not trying to say that in a negative light, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. So prediction, does he get more or less than this? I'm going to throw out a year's number and a money number.
Okay.
You tell me more or less. 4 years.
I think it's going to be right at 4 years.
$58 million.
I'm going to say a little more. I'm going to go in the 60-70 range.
Oh, there we go.
I think if the Cubs gave him 4 years, 58, and he accepted it, I'd say thumbs up. I just don't think it's going to be that low. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. Would you take 4 years, $58 million for Castellanos?
Yes, that's the marker I would go with. If it was more than that, I would walk. If he accepted that, I would be happy. I think that's not overpaying.
No, that was basically Ben Zobrist's contract, wasn't it?
Somewhere around there.
Around there.
And Castellanos, like he'll when the season starts, he'll just be turning 28. And he's over a year younger than Marcell Ozuna.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got no compensation attached to him. So you're not going to lose draft picks by signing him.
No, and do you think? Here's the other question. Let's say, just hypothetical, completely hypothetical, the Cubs wanted to sign him 4 years, 58. How would you divide that up? Because it sounds like they're still on a very tight budget, so maybe they wouldn't want to front load it. But let's say he doesn't play as expected. Would they be willing to risk getting backloaded a little bit, and would they accept that kind of offer?
I don't think you need to backload it that much.
Probably not.
Because John Lester's going to be off the books pretty soon.
Right.
And you're going to have an influx of new revenue from the TV deal. So, I mean, really, if you do a lower money deal first year and then, average the rest out over the last, over 3 years, or even the second half of the contract, I don't think that's that bad.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, it really feels like it's this year and last year were the two big worry years financially.
Yeah, I mean, so if your proposition to a player is, hey, we just got to give you a lower amount this year, but then the rest, the other 3/4 of the contract is going to be bigger money. I don't think that's a big one, big deal breaker by any means. But if you tell a guy, oh, it's a 6-year contract, in the first 3 years you get very little money, but in the last 3 years, that's a tougher sell.
Sure. No, those are all good points. Okay, so I have another financial money question for you.
Okay.
Do you think, and this is more prediction, do you think that the Cubs are going to try hard to clear some of the contract to Jason Hayward this winter? Do you think they're going to really try to find a buyer?
I think they'll try. I don't know how that gets done.
I don't either, because if you're going to try to get someone to eat that money, you're going to have to sweeten the deal a bit.
Because, yeah, you're not going to get. I just don't know how you move that contract.
I don't either. I really don't either. I think maybe you can move it in like the final year or two, but right now with 4 years left, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of years left, and he had a decent season last year, but it was to warrant the amount of money he's making.
Yeah, and this is what I say about Hayward over and over. If you took away the money and you look at what he's done the past 2-3 years, you look at those numbers and say, that's a solid ball player. That's solid. It's not all-star, but it's not bad. It's not average. It's slightly above average. You look at the on base, it's slightly above average. He hit 20 home runs last year, or 22, whatever it was. He can go the opposite field. He's a Gold Glover. He is a solid ball player. It's just solid ball players don't typically make $184 million.
Yeah, and what he's got left is 4 years and $86 million.
That's a lot of money.
Would he get a 4-year, $86 million contract on the free market right now?
God, no.
No, he would
not even close.
So he might get that 4-year, $58 million, maybe.
I don't even think he'd get that. I think he'd maybe be like a 30, 40 million type ball player.
So I just, how do you move him?
I think it'd be very difficult. And I'm not necessarily saying I want him moved, because I really do like Jason Hayward, but I also understand that they're going to try to be moving money, because you look at the other big contracts. You're not moving John Lester. You're not moving Yu Darvish. You know you're not moving those guys. I'm not saying this is big money, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to deal Jose Quintana, because if you look beyond the peripherals and you actually look at what Quintana did, you look at the fielding independent pitching, you look at the contact, you look at the BABIP against, you see a more valuable pitcher than what the ERA says. So I think there's not only some value there, but I think if you can trade that away, I mean, I know his option was like 11.5 million. I know that's not a whole lot to clear off of, but if you're really trying to clear off money and trying to get something in return, I think that's more realistic.
The issue with trading Jose Quintana is who do you replace him with in that rotation?
Right, and that's a good question. However, I do think while he has value, I think he is a replaceable pitcher. I think you can replace him. Whether it's a signing or some sort of trade, I think you can replace a player that caliber, a pitcher who, while the numbers look pretty mediocre, was technically better than average. You could say a bit unlucky at some points this season. I think he is easier to replace than we think. I also think he has more value than we think.
If you're not looking at financials and you say Jose Quintana, you go, okay, you could replace him and get better production. But when you've put in the value from that contract and say, for $10.5 million on a 1-year deal. Can I get better?
Right.
I don't know.
Which is valid.
Which is valid. So if you're looking to save money by replacing him, you've got to fill that roster. And it's not like, oh, you've got a ton of good pitching options in the minors that you can just, well, I'll bring those up. You don't have that luxury. So you're really going to be signing somebody, another free agent. And is that free agent, if they're less than $11 million, then, and you think you'll get as good or better production, then heck yeah, why wouldn't you trade Jose Quintana and get something for him and bring in and save some money? I just don't know if you can bring in somebody to replace him for as good of numbers as he'll give you for $11 million or $10.5 million.
Right, and I get that too. And I think one thing I should make clear is I know I mentioned the money. I know I mentioned getting the money off, but I also do want to kind of emphasize that the main idea behind a trade with Jose Quintana would be return value as in assets for the team and not as much money. I was just throwing it out there because I feel like at the end of the day, if you're trading to clear money, you're not going to be able to do much because your biggest money makers are going to be pretty unmovable.
Yeah, they are. So, I mean, if you're telling me, yeah, we're going to trade him for the asset and we're going to take a hit this year and retool and make a run for 2021, I'm with you. I'm there with you because I think you can get something for Jose Quintana.
And you know what? I'll be honest. I think that's where we're heading. I think this year is going to be a quote retool year. I agree with you, except it's a real tough time to be in a retool year because you are launching your sports network. Right, but they're not going to say it.
No. Well, I mean, everybody will know it based on what they do this offseason. If you trade Wilson Contreras and you trade Jose Quintana and you don't make a splash in free agency, everybody and their mother will know that's what you're doing.
Right.
And you're right. There's a lot of real tough, there's a lot of real tough contracts that you can't really move. You're not moving Lester. You're not moving Darvish. You're not moving Hayward. You're not moving Bryant. You're not moving Chatwood. You're not moving Rizzo. You're not moving Baez.
You're trying to extend him.
You're trying to extend him and make it cost more money. Wilson Contreras is there, and he's not making any money, so you're just trading him because of his value. Right.
That's a trade for value. And, I mean, when I say like a retool year, they'll try to, quote-unquote, go for it. But I think their long-term goals are thinking beyond this coming season, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm there with you. And I think even if they were to trade Jose Quintana and Wilson Contreras, I still think on paper they've got a shot to make the playoffs.
Oh, sure.
I don't consider them anywhere near a contender to win the World Series. But I mean, I feel like on paper they're just as good as the Brewers or the Cardinals. Depending on what they do.
Right. And I don't think we're going to see huge off seasons from either the Brewers or the Cardinals. Maybe the Cardinals make one surprise move, and maybe I'm wrong and I regret this later, but it just doesn't sound like the Brewers are going to do that much. But again, it's early. We don't know. You never know.
Yeah, I just have no idea what the Cubs rotation is going to look like.
Well, I can guarantee Hendricks will be there. Lester will be there. Darvish will be there. I mean, those are the three guys I can guarantee. I really like Tyler Chatwood as a long reliever, and that's where he should stay. Outside maybe a few spot starts. Because if you remember last year, in the few of the spot starts he had, he did a pretty good job. But, boy, I'll tell you one thing. If they want us to take what they're doing seriously, I don't think you can consider having him go in as one of your starters in 2020.
But as it stands right now, with who you currently have under contract, your top 5 starters are Yu Darvish, Kyle Hendricks, John Lester, Jose Quintana, and Tyler Chatwood.
Well, they're going to have to make some moves.
They're going to have to. But because I'm, as it stands on the Thanksgiving week, and we've got a long way to go, and there's a lot more moves out there, and who knows what people are going to do in spring training. Some of these younger guys might surprise you. Who knows? But as it stands right now, Tyler Chatwood is one of your top 5 starting pitchers.
He is, and I know people bring up Adbert Alzolay, and while I think the kid has some promise, it's kind of hard to rely on him because he's had a lot of injury issues.
There's going to have to be moves to be made to improve that rotation.
Yeah, no doubt. Right now, you're going into this season, and the guys you probably trust the most right now on the whole pitching staff, this includes bullpen too. Really, the only guys I have a lot of faith in right now are Yu Darvish and Kyle Hendricks.
Right.
I mean, John Lester, God love him, I love him. Let's face it, he's washed. He's
Absolutely.
a 5 starter now. And that's okay. It was 100% worth it. We knew the back end wasn't going to look particularly good, but the fact of the matter is he's not John Lester anymore.
No, he's not. Let's see, 40-man roster. So you're the pitchers on your 40-man roster as it currently stands on Cubs.mlb.com. Adbert Alzolay, Tyler Chatwood, Jarrell Cotton, Yu Darvish, who they just got, Kyle Hendricks, Danny Holtzen, Craig Kimbrell, John Lester, Dylan Maples, Tyson Miller, Alec Mills, James Norwood, Jose Quintana, Colin Ray, Manuel Rodriguez, Kyle Ryan, Justin Steele, Dwayne Underwood Jr., Rowan Wick, Brad Wick.
Bunch of fireballers right there.
So,
how are they going to fix that bullpen, man?
Trading Wilson Contreras.
For who?
I don't know.
Mariano Rivera in his prime?
I don't know. Just that's the only thing you got.
I don't know how the hell they're going to fix that. It's honestly, I feel like it's going to just be another year of relying on a bunch of waiver claims and reclamation projects, and Theo Epstein jacking off over pitchers who top at 92 miles an hour who have had multiple arm injuries. And I'm not saying moves like Jarrell Cotton are bad. I think it's good to take flyers on guys. I mean, when there's low risk, high reward, it's good to take flyers on those kinds of guys, but you can't just rely on that, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, let's play this game quick.
Okay.
I'm going to read you the Cubs outfielders on their 40-man roster. You tell me who you tell me who your starting 3 outfielders are.
Okay.
The outfielders you have on your 40-man roster right now: Albert Almora, Ian Happ, Jason Hayward, Tony Kemp, Kyle Schwarber.
Oh, God. Jason Hayward and Kyle Schwarber, for sure. In center, right now I'd go Ian Happ.
All right. This one should be a little easier. Here's your infielders. Tell me who your starting infielders are.
Okay.
Baez, Bodie, Bryant, Descalso, Rubble Garcia, Nico Horner, Anthony Rizzo, Addison Russell, and Zach Short.
Rizzo, Horner, Baez, Bryant.
I think that's reasonable.
I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit on Horner. I still think he may need some seasoning, but I think if you were to replace him, maybe Bodie. But look, hell no to Addison Russell. I hope to God they don't tender him a contract. Robel Garcia, nice story. He's not an MLB player. He's just not.
I was so hoping. I went full meatball on Robel Garcia, and it was wrong.
I mean, I basically, the one thing I could say I was right about last year was predicting Robel Garcia. I said he was going to be a really nice spark plug for a few weeks, hit some home runs, get on base, and then pitchers were going to figure him out. It was a very short-term solution, but, I mean, at the time it worked. It did work. But to me, it's
Okay. Catcher. Who are you? Miguel Amaya, Victor Caratini, Wilson Contreras.
Well, I think you got to start with Contreras and Caratini.
And then I read you the pitchers. Who are your 5 starters?
Hendricks, Darvish, Lester, Q, and I guess Tyler Chatwood. I don't know where else really to go.
This is a really flawed team.
And you know what's the worst part of it? We have no depth whatsoever.
Nunzo.
Look at the guys that we left off. Would be your depth.
So if we take off the guys we have from the 40-man roster that we slated as starters, because I don't disagree with you on any of those.
Mm-hmm.
Your outfielders are Albert Almora and Tony Kemp. Your infielders are Zach Short, Addison Russell, Robel Garcia, Daniel Descalso, David Bodie. Your catcher is Miguel Amaya, which he's your top catching prospect, but he's young. And then your starters are non-existent. Your starting pitcher is Adbert Albisley.
That's why, you know who I want them to go after? Matt Duffy. He is available. They should go get him. Get guys like that. Get guys for depth, for pure depth. Guys that actually can contribute. Better than Daniel Descalso, better than Addison Russell. Get some actual depth guys, because there are those guys out there, and they're not going to break the bank. And, you know, I'll be completely honest with you right now. You know what I'm scared to death about? I just totally see them bringing back Russell. I can see it right now.
If they do, at this point, they're dumb.
They are.
Because he can't play baseball, and nobody likes him.
But I could totally see him doing it. That's the sad thing.
Is if you can't find a better middle infielder to bring in than Addison Russell, who last year stunk as a defensive infielder and can't hit. If you can't find somebody better than him for $3.5 million, then maybe it's time to find a new president of baseball operations and general manager.
Yeah, that would be inexcusable. It would be good, though, if finish it.
You like puke?
Right on.
That would. Addison Russell signing right now would be really good if you like puke.
Exactly.
It warms my heart that Kato Kalin liked the tweet where I said that.
I owe him so much because I am spreading that wonderful saying, and everyone on Twitter I follow now is using it.
Thank you, Kato Kalin. You are the one Brewer fan I don't dislike.
He's entertaining. I actually feel like if I went to a Brewers game with him, I'd have a lot of fun.
I mean, he might move into your house and just eat all your parents' food, but
probably
walk around the house in his boxers with an open robe and drinking from the milk carton. there's like day-old pizza. He's like 3-day-old pizza sitting out, and he's like, "This pizza is good if you like puke." with milk all over his face and holding the open carton. Not the jug, like the half gallon in the cardboard carton.
Totally.
So I don't know where the Cubs, honestly, I don't know where they go. And partly is I don't know what their financial flexibility is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's being. I mean, it seems pretty obvious they want to stay under the luxury tax. I mean, Mr. Ricketts made that pretty clear publicly. Do you really want to stockpile a few draft picks that won't make an impact for a number of years? I get it. I get you want to be better at developing. I get you want a better farm system. I totally get it. But, I mean, do you want to stay just stuck in mediocrity for a long time to build some draft picks? I mean, that's what I got to ask. Because, look, there should be no reason that it's just about money. You are printing money, and you are going to print a hell lot more with this TV deal.
I agree with you.
In terms of paying a luxury tax.
Is the Cubs are currently, so they paid, the Ricketts family paid how much for the Cubs? $700 million?
Something like that.
They're currently, as of April 2019, they're valued at $3.1 billion. Their annual revenue was $452 million, and their operating income was $87 million. They've got room to spend money.
Yeah, but then we'll hear, we brought Almora and Russell back.
I don't want them back. If you said we'll launch those two players to the moon from a catapult and we'll bring in real MLB quality players, I'd go double win.
Yeah. And, even if I wouldn't be as upset if they tendered Almora a cheap contract and they said, okay, we're going to work in the minors and see how this works out. That wouldn't upset me, but Addison Russell would upset me.
Yeah, Albert Almora, if you bring him back and he's your depth, I'm not overjoyed, but I'm also not
I could
upset.
live with it.
I could live with it, because I think he's a quality defensive player.
What I don't want,
he's cheap, so okay. But Addison Russell brings nothing.
He brings puke.
He brings the puke that when you throw up, that burning sensation in your mouth afterwards. That's what Addison Russell is in a human form.
Pretty much. The only thing with Almora is there better not be the intention to right away make him your starting center fielder. You tender a contract, he's like, well, that's our starting center fielder. I have enough faith right now that wouldn't be the case, but there'd be a small part of me that would fear that.
I would be very unhappy if they named him the starter. If you brought in somebody young, like you made a trade and there's a guy that's borderline, like not quite ready for the majors, but really good in the minors, and you're like, okay, well, we're going to start Almora, and then some time in the season we'll make that switch. All right, maybe I can buy that. But if you come in and you're like, he's our starting center fielder, I'm just going to absolutely puke until the next hot stove. I'm going to just dry heave. I'm going to sound like the background sounds of The Walking Dead.
Are those zombies know that Sean dry heaving over the Cubs?
Pretty much. I'm just going to put blinders on and keep looking forward until the Cubs do something. But I honestly don't know what the moves are and what they can do. And if we see them trade Wilson Contreras and we see them trade Jose Quintana, I feel like they're throwing in the towel for this 2020 season.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I mean, what if they made a big splash and they traded Bryant, Contreras, and Russell? I mean, and Contreras and Bryant and Quintana. They traded all three of those guys.
I'd be blown away.
I would be absolutely blown away. But I don't know. They said storm is a brewing. And, you know.
Is it that or bubble guts? We don't know.
There's a storm of brewing. No, the Cubs just re-signed Addison Russell and everyone just has to go puke. All right, should we move on to the Bears?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, so we didn't talk about the Rams game because I was at Disneyland, but that was an awful game. Awful game. And the game against the Giants was another awful game.
That was just a bad football game, period. I mean, that was good if you like puke.
And, you know, I get it. So the Bears' offense stunk because the Giants are giving up like 30 points a game. And you scored, what, 19?
Yeah.
You scored 19 points against a team that gives up like 30 points a game. That's no bueno. And I get it. Was it Mitch Trubisky's fault? I mean, part of it, but he wasn't obviously the biggest fault in that game.
I'm going to say he made some damn good throws. It wasn't perfect, but he made some damn good throws in that game.
He did. But, you can't excuse him from the problem because he's the quarterback. I get it. That offensive line is brutal.
It's awful.
And Bobby Massey goes down. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but, that offense has been brutal. And people want to talk shit on the defense, but you know what? That defense, when was the last time they gave up a lot of points?
Can't really remember.
They are holding teams to very little points. Sure, they're not getting the turnovers that they did last year, which helped the offense. But, man, this offense needs to wake the F up because the line is bad. You can't get a running game going. The quarterback he's very unsure. I don't think it's his arm that's bad.
No.
Mitch Trubisky's arm is not the problem.
No.
It's Mitch Trubisky's decision making and ability to understand the defense and the offense.
Exactly. So, I mean, we saw his first throw of the game.
Yeah, you can be like, hey, look, he made a good throw. Sure, he's got a very talented arm. If you put his arm on somebody that understood football, then good. It's just he doesn't understand what he's supposed to do. And when you go out there, there's one play where he threw one over, out of bounds through the end zone, trying to throw to Allen Robinson, and he had it it's not even like, oh, you couldn't see him because he was out of the picture. In the same line of sight, he had Ben Broniker wide open, probably would have run for a first down. It's just he misses open guys. He's not understanding what he's supposed to do in the offense, and Matt Nagy is not helping him.
No, he's not.
I get it. Matt Nagy wants to run this crazy offense, and Mitch Trubisky can't do it. If you are that stubborn that you either need to make a change at quarterback to somebody that can do it, or you change the offense to something that your players can run.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we saw examples of good and bad, Mitch. You mentioned the one with Ben Broniker where he missed him wide open, threw to Allen Robinson with two guys on him. Everyone said the same thing when that happened. Even Tom Brenneman said it on the broadcast. You saw him throw absolute dimes to Allen Robinson later in the game. You also saw a really dumb, bad interception he threw that never should have been thrown in the first place. I mean, you saw a lot of good and bad. Now, the one thing that I give him some sympathy for, what I thought could have been a tone setter for the Bears, which could have led to a much bigger margin of victory, was the Ben Broniker drop. Because he catches that's probably a touchdown or at least, first and goal. I think if he catches that there, I think the Bears can go on and just run away with that game.
And here's the thing. You scored 19 points against an abysmal defense, and your offense is struggling. Your quarterback is getting beat up around the league. And if your offensive line can't protect, and how many passes do you think Mitch Trubisky attempted?
40?
41.
Wow, it was close.
How many runs do you think your running backs had in that game?
15?
19.
Okay.
6 from Cohen, 13 from Montgomery. You had your running backs attempted 19 runs and you threw 41 passes in a 19-14 game. That's Matt Nagy. That's honestly Matt Nagy. And he needs to look in the mirror. It's got to start with him. Is your offensive line, it's, as much as we'd laugh and joke about John Fox, is the one thing he had going for him is when he knew he had no quarterback, he went to, bringing in the heavy package, and you run the ball, and you run the ball, and you run the ball, and you play with your defense. And honestly, I think the Bears would be in a better position right now if that's what they did.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. The one thing I will say is, though, when they're running the ball, they really aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, but they're running out of, RPOs. They're running, some trick plays. Is bring in your heavy package, bring in a fullback, go out and sign a fullback. There are probably 19 of them sitting and ready to play. Bring in a fullback and run behind a lead blocker from the I formation. You haven't.
I can agree with that. How about that play call late in the game when the Bears needed like a first down or two to really put it away? After the Giants started coming back, and you knew it was going to get blown up from the second they ran it when Montgomery was way deep in the backfield. All you needed was a yard, and he lost a yard or two. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, against the Giants defense.
It's like you saw that was going to come a mile away. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And, people are like, oh, Mitch Trubisky threw for 278 yards. His quarterback rating was a 69.
Nice.
It's, the one thing that they did exceptionally well is they geared up to stop Saquon Barkley, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't go anywhere, and I thought they did a much better job of putting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, the sack numbers didn't look huge, but there was pressure on him throughout the game, and Khalil Mack finally looked like Khalil Mack again, generating that turnover, and I think it was Nick Williams that recovered it, which turned into a very important touchdown. So that was nice to see some pressure on the QB, even if the sack numbers weren't huge.
Yeah, and so I like the one where Khalil Mack just blew up 3 people to run down the quarterback.
Yeah, that was Khalil Mack. That was truly Khalil Mack right there.
But as it stands right now, is we're probably pretty close to making a decision of whether or not you bring back Akeem Hicks.
Yeah.
And so right now, if you're looking at, and I know what the odds are. This is not me trying to be meatball. This is me looking at the actual NFC playoff picture. The 49ers are leading their division after they just stomped a mud hole in the Green Bay Packers.
You know what? I'm finally buying into that team a bit.
Yeah. I mean, their one loss was a really tough game against Seattle.
Yeah. I still think Seattle, being a more experienced unit, is almost, if not as dangerous as San Francisco. But San Francisco is proving that they're a force to be reckoned with.
It's the reason I like Seattle a little better is I think their quarterback is much more experienced and is a much better quarterback.
Russell Wilson, he's like fine wine. He just gets better with age.
He just is so good. Man, I would love to have him as the Bears quarterback right now.
Oh, me too.
Packers are winning the division right as it stands right now, and the Cowboys are winning their division somehow.
Which is, ugh.
So currently the wild card teams are the Seattle Seahawks at 9-2, and the Minnesota Vikings at 8-3.
Yeah, that's right. The Vikings are in first now, aren't they?
No, Green Bay's in first, but the Vikings Vikings are they're same record though. So the
Vikings, right, because Green Bay has a win on them.
Yeah. So then outside looking in are the Rams at 6-5 and the Bears at 5-6. So it's not unrealistic here because let's see the Vikings schedule here. I mean, they're not catching Seattle. That's plain and simple here. But the Vikings they're playing Seattle, their next game. I think they lose that one. And then they've got the Lions, which they'll probably win that one. They've got the Chargers, and the Chargers could win that one. Then they've got the Packers and the Bears. I think those could be 2 losses. So if they do lose 1, 2, 3 more games, that puts them at 10-6. And if the Bears win out, they're 10-6 and have beat the Vikings twice. It's a long, heavy road. I just don't think it's impossible. But the Bears, they need Akeem Hicks to come back, and they need to put more points on the board.
Yeah, I'm really not playing any sort of playoff scenario in my head. I just don't think it's happening.
I don't think it's happening either. I think they're outside looking in. But I'm just saying that there is a path. There is a fairly realistic path. It's just but if they lose,
it's full landmines.
I mean, you gotta beat the Lions. Lions, that's a winnable game, especially since there's talk that Driscoll might not be able to play either.
You better win that game Thursday. You really better win that game.
Then you play the Cowboys. And
I think you could beat them.
I think you can. They're not a very good team. They just got manhandled by the Patriots. Then you got to beat the Packers. That's a tough one. I don't think the Packers are that good. Just the Bears are that bad.
Well, that's the thing is we're looking at the next 2 games. We're looking at the schedule. We're saying, oh, the Bears can win that one. we're not saying it because of their ability. We're saying it because of how bad the other team is.
The big one that they absolutely, positively, they have to win all those games. If they, to have any hope of the playoffs, they have to win every single one of these games. That Chiefs game is a tough one.
Yeah, that is.
And the Chiefs are a very beatable team, but you know the Chiefs are going to put points on the board. You're going to beat the Chiefs, you've got to put points on the board. And their defense is terrible. I just don't think the Bears can muster enough offense to beat the Chiefs. You're not going to hold them to 14 points.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
So, this would be such a Bears is, you beat the Lions, you beat the Cowboys, and you're like, oh man, we're tasting it. And then you lay an egg against the Packers and the Chiefs, and then you beat the Vikings at the end of the season, and there you are sitting a game back, outside looking in.
Yeah, well, it's one of those scenarios where you look back and you say, if only we could have won that damn Chargers game. Because that might end up being one of the big differences.
You look back and you're like, man, if they didn't have that boneheaded play against the Raiders,
sure,
you win that game.
You could easily have 7 wins right now.
Yeah, if you don't run into the punter, you win that game. If you make the kick, you beat the Chargers. And wouldn't it be a lot prettier sitting there at what would they be, 7-4?
You'd have 7 wins. That would be a huge difference right there.
If you're at 7-4, don't you sort of like your odds of making the playoffs?
Oh, of course. No question.
Because then you're at 7-4. You probably beat the Lions. You probably beat the Cowboys. And then you probably beat the Vikings. That puts you at 10 wins. So even if you lose to the Packers and Chiefs, you're still 10-6 and have 2 wins on the Vikings. You make the playoffs as the wild card.
Okay. Yeah. You're probably right.
And you're the worst of the wild card teams. So, so 49ers and the Saints get the bye. You would be playing Green Bay in the first round.
And then we'd probably lose.
But wouldn't that be fun, though, to go into the wild card and go into Lambeau and beat the Packers? Wouldn't that have been fun?
Oh, that would have been great.
At least if the Bears can win some games, they can probably force the, help push the Eagles out of the playoffs.
Oh, that'd be nice. A little revenge.
Oh, man. But it's a frustrating team.
Very, very. And we can go on and on about what we've been talking about with this team, and it just feels repetitive at this point. Seems like every week we talk about the disappointments of Trubisky, how bad the offense is, the defense being good but not taking the ball away, Matt Nagy's play calling. It's the same loop over and over.
You know, what's one topic we haven't talked about is I really like Buster Skrine.
He's been great this year. I don't think he's gotten enough credit.
He has not gotten enough credit, and I really like him. As much as I like Bryce Callahan, I think, isn't he out for the season?
I think so.
So, Buster Skrine was a good signing. All those Jets fans that are like, oh, he's terrible. Maybe it was your team that was terrible.
Yeah, no, Buster Skrine's been very impressive. And I think Chuck Pagano has helped him out a bit.
Yeah, so that's a bright spot we haven't talked about. But, yeah, I think that was a good signing.
I think so, too. And I think Cordell Patterson was a fantastic signing.
Yeah, if only you could work him into your offense.
And maybe put him on punts as well. I am so over Tree Cohen on special teams.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, should we talk a little Bulls? We haven't talked Bulls.
Sure.
The Bulls are really fun to watch if you like puke.
Agreed.
This team is dog turd tacos. And you just got blown out by the Portland Trailblazers.
And Carmelo Anthony, the shell of Carmelo Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony dropped 25 points on you. Old man Carmelo Anthony, who just a couple of weeks ago was sitting on his couch watching, is just dropped 25 on you. And Jim Boylan, I don't even know what to say about that guy. I just really don't. He's been awful. He was hired to
putting
fix.
It likely.
John Paxson said Jim Boylan was hired to fix the competitive spirit of the Bulls, and that's what he said when he fired Fred Hoiberg. And this is the team this is what he's coaching right now. Is Lauri Markkanen, who's supposed to be your superstar, is regressing. He does not look good at all.
No, he's been really rough this season.
Your best scorer is feuding with the coach. And it is just not going well.
He's completely lost that team. Between the Levine comments, between none of them high-fiving the coach when he tried to after the one crazy win, it's obvious he's lost the team. It's embarrassing. It's awful.
It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. John, if you come to any conclusion other than John Paxson should be launched from a catapult out of town or chased by angry Chicagoans with thick mustaches full of deep dish pizza crumbs with pitchforks and torches out of town, that's the only conclusion I can come to. Those are your two options if you're the Bulls management. This is embarrassing. And you can say, oh yeah, well now it's Boylan's fault. And before that it was Fred Hoiberg's fault. And before that, and you can just keep going on and on with these coaches. How many general managers in sports get to hire and fire as many head coaches as John Paxson has gone through?
Not a lot. So what? He's been around since 2003. He's had how many coaches? Because there was the other Jim Boylan, I think, was under him, right?
Yes.
And then Scott Skiles.
Let's see.
And then Vinny Del Negro, Tibbs, Hoiberg, Boylan.
Let's see. What year was Paxson?
2003, I think. I want to say 2003.
All right. Let's see. 2003, Cartwright was fired. 2003, Pete Myers was the interim coach. Scott Skiles was 2003 to 2007. Pete Myers was the interim coach in 2007. The other Jim Boylan was 2007, 2008. Vinny Del Negro was 2008 to 2010. Thibodeau was 2010 to 2015. Hoiberg was 15 to 18. And now the Jim Boylan.
Yikes.
So you've gone through Cartwright, Pete Myers twice, two different Jim Boylans, Scott Skiles, Vinny Del Negro, Tom Thibodeau, Fred Hoiberg. That's how in the world do you do that?
And only one of those coaches legit got you somewhat close to a championship.
Would you like to know the winning percentage of... Do you want me to tell you the list of all of those head coaches, the list of them that have a winning percentage greater than 500?
I can only think there's probably only two, right?
There's only one.
Only Tibbs.
Only Thibodeau.
Because isn't Vinny Del Negro at 500?
He is an even 500.
Yeah. because both his seasons were like 41 and 41.
Yeah, he is 82 and 82 as a head coach for the Bulls.
Hey, you know what? I'd take Vinny Del Negro over Jim Boylan right now.
I would take Jim Boylan over Jim Boylan right now.
I'd take a puddle of puke.
Who manages the Harlem Globetrotters? That's who I want.
Yeah, really. I'd teach them to spin the ball on their finger and use ladders.
Like, at least make these games fun.
Seriously. And that's what I thought. I thought they could be fun bad, but they're just bad.
Is you gave Jim Boylan an extension.
Mind-boggling. It's because he's a puppet.
Oh, I mean, Pete Myers was not puppety enough for you, so you brought in Jim Boylan.
Yep.
Like, oh my goodness. Jim Boylan got a contract extension. It's unreal.
And look, let's be real. That win the other night with Zach LaVine, that was a shot in a prayer.
It was absolutely, I mean, it was amazing.
It was amazing, but it was complete luck.
Absolute complete luck.
Because as soon as they won that game, like normally I'd be happy, but I'm like, oh God, that was done despite Jim Boylan, basically. I mean, it should say enough about Jim Boylan, but in the minds of Garpax, they probably thought it was some big leap forward.
Did you see him get pushed out of a team huddle?
Yes, I did.
That was...
How do you sit there and say that's acceptable?
I don't know. I mean, aren't you embarrassed as the head coach?
I would be.
I would be so embarrassed. And how John Paxson, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, sat there talking about accountability. The man had the audacity to talk about having accountability.
Yeah.
Like, I kid you not, if I ever see John Paxson walking near me, I'm going to pull a John Paxson and I'm going to grab him by his necktie and punch him in the face. Like he did to Vinny Del Negro.
Yeah.
Like, the man has zero accountability.
No, yeah. Accountability. Get out of here.
I mean, well, let's take it down a notch for a second. He has no accountability for this team winning. But if you're like, oh, okay, well, accountability to making this team money, then okay. But as far as this team winning basketball games, zero accountability. Zero accountability. And he had the opportunity to go, hey, you know what? This has not been going right. Gar Forman, you're fired. And I think everyone would have been like, all right, maybe this is a new John Paxson. But he didn't do anything except say, well, nobody likes Gar, so I'll be the voice of the team. But Gar's just going to still be there. And you bring in Jim Boylan as your head coach. It's embarrassing. How in the world do you expect to win with this franchise the way it is?
Yeah, it's a disaster. It really is, of so many epic proportions. I'm rereading that story about Vinny Del Negro getting choked by John Paxson.
The Bulls were supposed to be a contender this year. Not for the title, but for making the playoffs. And they're an embarrassment.
And yet they're still only a game back of the 8th seed. They're 6-12 and they're a game back.
That's how bad things are. I don't know if you watch the show Letterkenny.
They're one back of the Orlando Magic.
Oh man, we knew the East was going to be weak. This is bad. I mean, the Bulls have taken a huge step backwards from the end of last season. Lauri Markkanen doesn't look like he has any confidence at all. He makes he makes Mitch Trubisky look like the most confident guy in the world. Thaddeus Young has not been the guy that you thought you were signing. It just, like, how do you go and blame Fred Hoiberg for this when you've gotten worse?
And I'm not saying Fred Hoiberg was really an ideal coach, but I'd honestly take Fred Hoiberg way over what we have now.
So what are your two jobs if you're the Bulls head coach right now? Is coach to win games now and to develop players. And he is failing miserably at both.
What would I do?
No, I said those are the two things you're supposed to do, and he's failing at both.
I was confused. Yeah, okay. That's 100% true.
You've got a young roster, and you're being shaped and molded by a boob.
A boob.
A boob.
A boob. Oh boy, yeah, it's just ugly top to bottom, and you're hearing how Jerry Reinsdorf is pissed, yada yada. I won't believe anything will be changed until it actually is. I don't believe a word of it.
It's infuriating.
It is, but I'm almost so apathetic about it now. It's like, well, I've accepted that nothing's going to change.
And, you can say, oh, well, the players need to play. But you know what? If you've got a toxic environment that's been created around you, you're already a young team, and you have no leadership, how is that an environment to win?
It's not.
It's not. You could say all day that the players need to play, but if they're not given the right opportunity and the right environment to win, it's really tough, because you know what? Those other teams are playing to win too. This is a very talented league, and it's not like this is college where, all right, if you just play harder, you blow out Little Sisters of the Poor, whatever scrub team you're playing. It's not like that in the NBA.
No.
There's really good teams. There's really good players. Man, you need to be a team. You can't just be five guys out there playing basketball. You're going to get blown out. Look at what the San Antonio Spurs did they were a team. They were a team. They had one superstar, not five superstars, and they were competing. So that's what the power of coaching and a good environment does.
Right on. And we don't have anything near it. It's quite the opposite.
So you wanted to give unpopular opinions about the teams.
Yeah, so wanted to play a little game. We're going to go each team in Chicago, each major team, and you're going to give one unpopular opinion about each. It could be anything. It could be about something that happened. It could be about something that may happen. It could be about something that you think should happen. It could be about a player being compared to another, anything. Just an unpopular opinion. So let's get started. Let's start with the Bears. What is your unpopular Bears opinion?
Ooh, unpopular Bears opinion. Wow. On the spot.
And here's the rules of the game. I can't judge your opinion. I just can't. And you can't judge mine. We just say it and that's it.
Okay. Give me a second here. I'm Bears opinion. David Montgomery is a better running back than Jordan Howard.
Cubs
opinion. They should not re-sign Chris Bryant.
Blackhawks.
I wanted to say that Culleton's line line changing is not very good, but that's probably everybody's opinion.
That's a fact.
I'm going to say that unpopular opinion is the Blackhawks should look to trade Jonathan Taves.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, Bulls.
Bulls. Man, hard to have an unpopular opinion here because
It's so
pretty
bad.
toxic environment there.
Well, you could go in the past too. Remember that.
Okay, I can go in the past. I'm going to say that Dennis Rodman was more important to those second 3 championships for the Bulls than Scottie Pippen.
Interesting. And I'll ask you White Sox too.
White Sox. I'm going to say that Harry Carey was a better announcer for the White Sox than the Cubs.
Okay.
Not
all right.
beloved, but better.
Well, he was younger then, and yeah. Okay, cool.
All right, let's hear yours.
Okay, now you list the teams off, and I'll give them.
Bulls.
Bulls. Okay, I think Jerry Krause gets a bad rap.
Okay. Blackhawks.
The Saad Panarin trade was 100% the right move and still is.
Cubs.
Cubs. You see, that's what I'm trying to think about. I think I'd say we rated Starlin Castro so highly because he was the only young player with any shred of talent. He was never going to be a part of the long-term plans, and it's a good thing he wasn't.
Okay. Bears.
As good as Khalil Mack is, he doesn't hold a candle to Brian Urlacher.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with most of those. Did I miss any teams?
You missed 2. Oh, no, you missed 1.
So, got the Bulls, the Bears, the Cubs, the Sox.
You didn't ask the Sox yet.
Oh, I didn't? White Sox.
White Sox opinion. This is no disrespect to him because I have a lot of respect for this guy, and I was very happy for him when they retired his number. But I kind of think Mark Burley was a little overrated by Sox fans. And that's not me saying he was bad. I just think he was kind of overrated.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, because I mean, and again, like I said, I was pretty happy for the guy. He was so humble about it, and he seems just like a very chill dude. And it's really no disrespect to him, but I mean, he had a great 2005, and you looked at a lot of his other seasons, and they were eh. He never had a terrible. I don't remember him having a terrible season ever. He had some great moments. I would say he was a very smart pitcher. I would never say he was bad, but I think there's just some people out there that remember Mark Burley being better than he really was.
I've got a better Cubs one.
Okay.
Alfonso Soriano was a good signing.
Okay, that's interesting. I was not the biggest Soriano fan. I mean, I appreciated what he did, but he was I'll tell you one thing. He's far from my favorite Cub in my lifetime.
He is not anywhere near my favorite Cub, but I look back on it and I think it was a good signing.
I mean, they kind of had to make a big splash, and let's just say the Cubs' downfalls really weren't centered around him. I get his numbers were disappointing as he got older, but it's not like he was the main reason for the downfall. Though, I gotta say, his postseason performances were pretty sad.
Yeah.
Sometimes coming up with a really unpopular opinion is hard because sometimes when you think deep down, you can kind of see both sides. It's not easy. I think I'd get a lot of backlash if I said Jerry Krause gets a bad rap because I know the core broke up, but we also got to remember he was able to keep the core around another year to win another championship, and I just felt like the Bulls, they barely squeaked it out in '98. It felt like it was the end. It really did feel like it was the end, and I can't necessarily be all that mad for Jerry Krause. Maybe I would be if I was there to remember it, but I feel like it would have been really hard to try to keep them around. At least to win another championship, I think it wouldn't have been guaranteed.
The only knock I have on Jerry Krause is he wasn't able to have Jordan for those 2 years that we didn't win titles. It would have been nice to have an 8-peat.
Yeah, but I got to ask you this. Do you believe in the theory on why he retired?
I don't know what I believe other than he didn't do it voluntarily. There's no way you can tell me that Michael Jordan just walked away from with how competitive that guy is, that he just walked away from basketball to ride on a bus playing minor league baseball.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that. Mm-mm. There's something. I don't know what the something is. I don't know. But you can't tell me he voluntarily did that. I'll never believe it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. And I hate being the conspiracy theory guy, but the whole thing, you look back at it, yeah, I'm with you.
And I'm not saying that it was a conspiracy and the league just covered it up and he was suspended. I'm not going all that, but something doesn't add up. And maybe it was him saying, I'm not in the right headspace. There's some sort of circumstance that we do not fully know about that.
Right.
And I don't know what it is, but he in sound mind and body did not walk away from basketball that year for 2 years.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You're never gonna convince me of that.
Yeah.
I mean, if Jesus Christ came here and was like, Sean, you're wrong. He decided to walk away. I'm going to lift up those robes and I'm going to look for the NBA's hand up his puppet back. Like, I'm not believing it.
Then he'd snap his fingers and your big Kool-Aid jug would shatter in a million pieces.
Not my Kool-Aid spoon.
You're on the ground just trying to gather all the shards together.
I just throw my hands in the air. I'm like, why? Why? Why have you forsaken my spoon?
He comes over and he just takes the tape off of the spoon and makes it disappear so it's in 2 pieces again.
I will put your spoon back together into the 2 broken halves.
No.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
No, I think I've said my piece.
We'll dive into Blackhawks next week. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or the TuneIn app or Spotify. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down